So that's why it was so important to me to learn more about the game, because I wasn't going to go down that. I would have stopped playing poker if I hadn't had any results. I 100% would have stopped playing if, we'd have gone another year or two before. In 2012 I did okay, and then 13 smashed it. So if that hadn't have happened, which could have, I wouldn't be playing poker today.
To get your story out there,
right?
I think having Jackie on there as the first guest was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. I had a good look at that. It was nice.
Yeah, you watched it.
Yeah.
And you were quite honoured to be the second guest.
I was quite honoured to be the second because I've never done anything like this, so let alone for poker. But I keep getting laughed at in a nice way. Because of I think I'm 38 or something in the Australian rankings, but when I walk into the Coogee guys, they all clap and go, "Here comes Mr. 37," So
it's one of those things where they're probably just jealous of you. Let's be real. Yeah, when everyone mocks someone else, they just want to bring you down, Michel.
Yeah.
You're one of us. You're in the top 50 in Australia. Don't worry. I got your back. That's why I got you on the show first.
Yeah, I love it.
Ask them on there first.
Yeah. Well, considering I started late in poker, not you guys started late as well, but compared to a lot of the guys that are in that top 50, the Sam Quases and that, they've been playing poker for 30 years, maybe more, 40 years,
Yeah, you've been around for enough time to see it really evolve, haven't you?
Yeah.
What was it like before, I guess, my time, the millennials time, the internet kids? What was it like?
It's interesting. I mean, I think when I started playing in 2007, and that was as a result of a mate taking me into the Crown poker room after a golf trip, and we just walked around and watched, them playing Texas Hold'em, and I knew how to play 5-card draw poker, but I didn't know any other variants of poker. So I was watching them play this Texas Hold'em, and back then Crown had not just cash games, but they had $50, $100, $200 sit and goes. So you could pay $50, sit at a table with 9 other people, and just play, but only lose $50. So whereas the cash games, you just keep dipping into your pocket, and you just reload and reload and reload and reload. Whereas you can have 2 hours of fun in a sit and go. The blinds went up, and not lose a fortune. So that was my introduction to Texas Hold'em.
So you started off with a sit and go, which is basically a short tournament.
One
table tournament.
Exactly, yeah. Because I didn't want to play the cash game because I didn't know enough about the game.
Where was the poker? So you were in Melbourne, right?
In Melbourne.
Whereabouts is the poker room? Because we all
know
downstairs. It's still downstairs.
It's still downstairs.
They never moved it.
They never moved it.
Yeah.
So it was still downstairs, and I returned back from that golf trip and decided I wanted to keep having a go at this Hold'em game because I loved the 5-card draw game, and I went into Star. And they had cash games only, so that was the only type of poker. I didn't know what tournaments were then. I mean, you said sit and go is like a 1-table tournament, but I didn't know what a tournament was.
Right.
So yeah, I just played cash games, and I was probably one of those fish people.
Probably. We were all a fish when we were first out.
Well, I do remember a lot of the regulars, saying, "Michel, look, come over and sit at our table."
Yeah, so it's a nice friendly invite.
Eventually, a few months later, I understood why they called me up.
Did they ever call you uncle?
No.
Okay.
Well, I never got called uncle.
Yeah.
But after, not doing very well in the cash game, I decided that I've really got to learn Hold'em, because knowing 5-card draw doesn't work, and it's a completely different game. So my first investment was in the Super Systems book.
Oh yeah, Todd Brunson, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first investment. I thought I'd have a read of that, and then progressed through that book and into a few other books, and just started, teaching myself a bit more about the game, being less of a, calling station and the rest of it. And that's when I moved from cash games into tournaments, because Star had the Wednesday night things, and they used to get pretty big numbers.
We're still in like 2007, 2008.
We're in 8-9 now.
8-9, yeah, which was when I started getting into it. So I remember that. I remember where the poker room was in the Star. It was sort of down near
the
used to be a sports bar.
Yeah. And they used to get 250 players to a Wednesday night tournament back then, which is impressive.
Yeah, I think first prize was like 20,000 or something. Close to every week.
Every week. Yeah. So I started playing that every week, and had a couple of deep runs, but not because of being a good player, but probably being patient more than anything. That's stepped up from that, kept teaching myself, and then stepped up from that to some of the more major events. Went down to Melbourne for the Poker News Cup back then, went down to Melbourne for the Vic Champs, the Melbourne Champs, and started hitting a few final tables in major events. So it's just, slowly progressed through there, through 09 and 10, and I think it was 09 or 10, that was the first year I went to Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was fun. And
did you go by yourself, or?
I went by myself for 1 week. I went for 2 weeks, and I was by myself for 1 week. I stayed in the Trump Tower. It didn't have poker, or it didn't have any casino downstairs. It was just a place to stay. So I stayed there, and I was by myself. But towards the end of that week, the Sam Capras, etc., Michael Levy, I think, came to Vegas to play the main event.
The Coogee boys, the Coogee crew.
That's it. They came to play the main event, and I kind of hooked into that group. But I had a really good score there that first year. I think I came third in one of the Venetian events for $30,000 US.
Oh, nice.
So that
no limit hold'em.
No limit hold'em. Yeah. So that sort of got me going cash wise. I could play the main event and give $10,000 to Jason Pritchard because he needed some cash.
We all do that. When we're in Vegas, it's like you got all your Aussie crew, and you're thinking, "Oh, I need some cash. Who do I know who's here?" And this guy knows him. Okay,
I'll transfer it.
Yeah, I'll transfer to you. You transfer to him, and I've got a friend back in Sydney who can give you cash at the casino.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that was my first intro to the World Series, which was a lot of fun. I mean, there's that much going on. It just got bigger and bigger from then on.
Because this was still only 4 or 5 years after the Hashem boom, but even just poker in general in the world it boomed everywhere.
Boomed everywhere. Yeah.
Because those numbers, I mean, that year, who won the main event that year?
2010. No, it was
Peter Eastgate or something.
Peter Eastgate.
Hummel.
No, before that was Eastgate, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So they would have had like 8,000 or something for the main event, maybe even more.
No, they had around 6,000. I think the biggest main events have been Jamie Gold's year, and that was 8,000 something. And then it took a drop, and in the last, barring COVID, was climbing back up to over 7,000. Yeah.
What do you reckon they're going to get this year?
There's a lot of people there.
Seems that way.
Yeah. I mean, forget the
I can't
masks.
get out of my suburb at the moment.
I know.
I can get to Vegas.
Well, we're in lockdown here, and they've been playing poker, and you watch some of the videos, and they're like, what mask?
Yeah.
What COVID?
Touching cards and chips, cards.
Yeah, who cares?
I couldn't think of a worse environment for spreading COVID than crouched around a table, coughing on your hands and the chips and passing cards around. But you're vaccinated, you got your mask, whatever.
Yeah,
let's live with it, right?
Exactly, just live with it.
I remember I used to even just go on some of those trips, and depending on where I was, Macau was the worst because that place is pretty dirty. But I remember just like I would always get a bit of like sickness everywhere I'd go, and I realized it was because all these chips are dirty and you're coughing on your hands and you're probably eating food with
Exactly.
You find yourself getting sick, and now it's just an additional sickness on top that you could catch, which is COVID, but
which is easier to catch.
Yeah.
But I think the numbers have been pretty impressive. Obviously, not anywhere near as big as before COVID, but I don't know. I think they'll get 5,000.
5,000?
Yeah.
Is that your over/under mark, or that's what you think?
I think they'll get over.
Over. Okay.
5,000. So it's
well, what's your benchmark though? I want to take under on it, and then we can
well,
mark our words.
5,000. 5,000.
Okay, so I reckon under that. Yeah, I would take under on that.
I
think because there's still a big portion of people who won't travel. It's a different time of year. It would have been harder for them to get there.
Yeah, but they've done a few things. Biden has relaxed the rules for coming in.
Oh, okay.
They've added 2 extra days, so they now have A, B, C, D, E day ones.
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving them 2 extra days, so the Europeans can fly in now.
Right.
So up to the last minute, virtually, So I think it's 5th, 6th, 7th of November. So you've got 7 days from tomorrow, I think.
I'm still taking under 5,000. I want to go higher just for the sake of poker, definitely. But I am a competitor. As you know, I just
under
want it on broadcast said that I'm going to beat you in something.
You've done that plenty of times, please.
Let's get back into your story because you and I have an interesting relationship over the years, and we're about to hit where we do cross paths. So I think we're about 2010, 2011 now.
Yeah, and I went to Vegas and again in 11, and 2011 and 12 I started, being a regular final table in events.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to a point in 2012 where the new wave of poker, your wave, was coming in. And
my wave? What do you mean by that?
When you used to come to a table and the bloke would say, "Oh, you're one of those internet kids," right? That's what they say. If you looked like a 23-year-old or a 22-year-old or a 19-year-old, they'd go, "You're an internet kid."
And in my case,
not necessarily true. In your case, you look 15, but you might not be an internet kid. You just were classified as an internet kid. It doesn't matter. So the internet kids, I knew that there was more to it than just internet kid. And in 2012. That's when I contacted you because we'd already been friendly through you beating me in a lot of pots or re-raising me or doing all sorts of things, and I contacted you about doing some coaching, and you put a package together of 10 lessons, and I decided to go ahead with it. And I remember sitting down to the first lesson. I don't know if you remember this, but we sat down, and before you even started talking about stuff, I said, "Brendan, look, these lessons, you look at me, I'm an old man. Look at you, you're an internet kid. I am not going to be like you. I'm not going to do things like you because my mindset is not going to allow me to do it. My brain isn't going to allow me to do it. But what I would like to do is I would like to understand your thinking, your internet kids' thinking when it comes to playing hands, why you do things, how you do things, etc., so that I can work out what my class of person can do to combat that." I don't know if you remember that, but that was...
Look, I don't remember exactly, but I do remember, coming at it, because you were one of my first real coaching, clients or students, I like to call them.
Yeah.
And I do remember that I learned a lot from our whole relationship, and
Right.
so like part of it was definitely something along the lines that I don't remember exactly the way you're describing it, but
we clicked very well in terms of what you were teaching me and what I was trying to take in, because I was very clear in myself, knowing that there are things that I'm not going to be able to do. So I cannot, I can't. So if I throw something out there that you do, I won't know what the next step is. Because I don't know enough about the theory, etc. of poker at that point. And we started probably in about November of 12.
Yeah.
And I took a 10 lesson package, and we had done 5 of those lessons by the time the Aussie Millions came around. And I hadn't won a big event before then, but went into the Six Max, with 550 runners and all the Germans.
Yeah, the Euros.
All the Euros are very strong.
The word got spread in Europe.
Exactly.
Even easy
and people like Helmuth and Negrano, because Negrano was down there even down to the last 2 or 3 tables, I think. But I came away with a win, and I was pretty excited about that in the Six Max, which is one of the pristine events to win. So
how else? Describe that. Like a bit more about like what it was like to go through a little bit of the really applying yourself to learning, and then having that really amazing result in not just any tournament. I mean, your score was like 115k from memory.
Exactly.
And you beat some pretty tough players on that final table.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting final table, and it was an interesting journey right the way through. I mean, I did things that I would never have done in a normal tournament had we not had lessons. And even right down to the point, I don't know if you remember this, but right down to the point when I was on the final table, you came to watch the final table.
I did, yeah.
And there were situations where, I would fold hands normally that you would tell me not to fold. Mm-hmm. When there's a raise and a re-raise and there's 4 players and I have pocket 9s, I might have folded that. I didn't in one of the situations, and he ended up having pocket 8s, so I went all in, and he went all in and I went all in. He had pocket 8s, so I didn't fold the 9s. But there was a point in that final table where I think we were heads up, and I came over to chat to you, and you said raise every button and fold in the big blind. So I raised every button. I didn't know, at that point I didn't know. The cards were not what I would normally raise with. Yeah. But I raised and then played the hand. And what I understood from that whole thing is, like, when I raised, because in a heads-up situation, the hand ranges are so wide that you never got re-raised, or hardly ever got re-raised, because they don't know what you've got, and they really have to have a strong hand to re-raise you. In that situation, the final hand, I think I had King 10 and raised the button and got re-raised, but called. Ended up winning the hand and winning the tournament. But, it was just a very interesting journey. And I did a lot of things that I would not have normally done and since do now, because of that interaction that we had at that final table, which was really interesting, yeah.
So that it almost like opened a different portal for you. It's like I like to refer this to like changing a golf swing, and you play golf, so I think this will resonate with you. If a golf coach tells you and looks at you and says, "Oh no, you need to hold your arm this way," it feels so weird the first time you do it.
Yeah,
but 100%. It just takes you doing it a couple of times and seeing a good result, and then practicing, and then it starts feeling more natural. But it feels weird at first, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like that would have been weird for you to be in those situations that you were not familiar with.
Yeah,
because that happens. You're shaping your old habits and you're trying to form new ones, and it feels weird. It feels very uncomfortable at the start.
A very good analogy, 100% like that. golf swings are exactly like that. You see a coach, he changes something, you don't like it, but you have to persevere with it if you want to get better. And we carried on for some time in terms of our instructions together after that. And 2013 was probably my biggest success year all round.
Yeah, you had a few consecutive results within like 6 months. I remember just following that. And I always say when it rains, it pours in poker, and that can be both ways.
That was I agree. I mean, you have at that point I didn't understand what the variances were. So you can have these up and downs. I know what that's all about now because you can go for a long time with nothing. But that entire year was a lot of final tables. Probably
let's talk through them. You won the Six Max.
Won the Six Max.
Was in Melbourne for the Aussie Millions. Then you final table Joe Hasham Deep Stack Series and got third, was it?
Yeah.
And that was in April or something?
Yeah, and then final tabled either the Melbourne Champs or the Vic Champs was one of those two, I think, and then made a final table at the World Series.
That's right, and it was the seniors
event.
The old men's event.
The old men's event. But, when you look at that event, it's an amazing event. Today, you start with 20,000 chips. In 2013, we started with 3,000. Just think about that today and how easy it is to get busted out.
Yeah. But they changed the starting blinds and all that.
They've changed the starting structure, but 3,000 is nothing.
Yeah, I think there's a psychological difference with that though.
Well,
because people devalue it, right? So if you got 3,000 and the blind start at 25, which I remember they did. They did. You had a lot of those. And then you have another hour of, 25. 50.
Yeah, I know, but when you look at, in a normal event, I agree, but look, in the seniors event, you have King, Queen of Diamonds, and the blinds are 25. And the old bloke who picks up queens, say, he makes it 25x because he doesn't want any callers. So what do you do with your King, Queen of Diamonds? You can't play a hand because they've just raised it. It's 25, they make it 450. Out of your 3,000 stacks, not much.
No.
But if you had 20,000 and he makes it 450, because that's what he'd do. He'd still make it 450, but relative to the stack, you can maybe call and get a flush draw or something like that. I don't know what he's got, but that's how it happens. So you can actually play differently in that scenario.
So how did you adapt then? Like what was the biggest? Because coming from the Six Max against the internet kids who are 3 and 4 and 5 betting, because back then there's a lot of the pre-flop action. Now it's a lot less. It's a lot more post-flop now. How did you make that transition? Because that's a hard one to make.
Yeah, I think with the seniors event, it really didn't get going until maybe the last 100. The first 4,500 people that you go through, they're playing ABC poker. So if somebody raises 10x, they got aces, they got kings.
It's pretty transparent, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what they've got. If you get re-raised, they've got you beat, unless you've got the nuts and they haven't. So there's very little bluffing. So you're playing ABC poker, and then when you get down to the last 100, it changes a bit. The stacks are a lot deeper. The blinds haven't caught up. There's a lot of movement for raises and re-raises as you move through that field. So it was very different compared to the beginning. Whereas the beginning, you're just trying to win. You have to get lucky in the first, 20 levels of hitting hands.
Yeah, but then, there would have been 3,000 or 4,000 people, right?
There's 4,500.
Yeah, so you obviously need your luck in those.
You need your luck. Yeah. So it was an interesting journey. There were things where there's one hand that I never forget because luckily, as you also get taught when we were having lessons, if you can build yourself a stack, you can weather the storm of all-ins and crazy plays. Like
lose a hand here or there or get called or lose a flip or something and still keep going.
Yeah.
That's the benefit.
That's the benefit.
All those little pots that
you're going along. Yeah. And because they played very ABC, you could do that. And there was two hands in that event. One was a straight up bluff, all in, with a flush draw made on the table. I had one pair, and there's a flush draw made on the table, and the old guy folded the queen high flush because he thought I had the king high or the ace high flush.
Wow.
You know, that would never happen today.
No, not at all.
That would never happen today. So so that was an interesting hand that kept me going. And then there was another hand against an old guy who was trying to bluff me. I had king queen and flopped a king, and he had ace 10, and I bet small on the flop, and he went all in. King 7-2 board.
And you had king queen.
I had king queen. So I called, and he goes, "Oh, you got me." He had ace 10, turn jack, river queen.
Ooh, ouch.
And it was like, you know, but at least I had enough chips to carry on, and eventually made the final table there too.
It's funny like that when I talk to people about, predominantly in coaching sessions, when we talk about dealing with the variance of your stack in any one tournament, it's very tricky because when you win a tournament, you are losing hands, whether they be up from unlucky plays or from, just making mistakes. You will lose hands. Like, you're just not going to win every hand till the end. So how are you going to manage yourself through that? So when that happened for you, like psychologically, how did you pick yourself back up and keep going?
Yeah, I think that was an interesting, at that point in my, poker development, I didn't get annoyed too much about that sort of run out. I eventually started having a bit of a feeling that it's like everything is against you. After that one didn't bother me, and we just carried on, probably because I had chips. So it didn't affect me. I guess it affects you more when that happens and you're out.
Oh yeah,
right. It hurts more. So
embarrassing walk of shame as you get out of your.
I didn't really think about recovering from that. I just moved on, and I felt like I was going to get the chips anyway.
I found that you've used humour a lot over the years. Like, whenever you share stories with me, when it's a bad beat or something, you laugh about it.
Yeah.
Is that a conscious thing that you're doing, or is that subconscious?
It's probably subconscious. I think
it's a fantastic approach.
Yeah.
Using humour. I mean, comedians do it all the time, just with the stupidity of life. But
yeah.
with poker, it's like, well, if you can laugh at all these bad beats and all that, you just shrug them off. It's a lot easier, right?
Well, I went through this period of thinking, like, this is after that year, and then progressive years, you don't, obviously the variance gets to you and you don't. So you feel like you're losing every flip, and the world's against you in poker. So my wife's a kinesiologist, so she decided to give me a few kinesiology sessions.
Could you explain what that is?
Well,
really quickly. Yeah.
Real quickly. So she does she uses the body and muscle testing to help you balance issues. So they can be emotional issues, they can be work issues, they can be food issues. In my case, the issues were, I believe that I'm unlucky, right? So she would run a session where she tries to balance things in your body to help you deal with that, so that when you walk away, the next time it happens, you will deal with it in a better way.
So it's a psychological belief that I am unlucky, and there's something that manifests in your body.
Yes.
And so what she does is she, works with the energy levels.
She works with the energy levels and does balancing. So she'll balance, your body, and give you affirmation. So if somebody bad beats you, you might say to yourself, "I love you. I really do."
Well,
not. It's okay, I'll deal with that, so...
but again, that's sort of using a bit of humour there, right?
Yeah.
But it's all premeditated, because you've done a bit of work with your wife, and then when the event happens, you've prepared, you've rehearsed what the reaction is, because it's like when you have it's called a trigger, right? When something triggers you, and it's often, if it's an unfavorable situation, it triggers you, and then all your insecurities come bleeding out.
Yeah.
Like a vomit on the poker table, and you either lose it as a player or yourself, or you play the next hand back.
People lose it. People lose it when they get bad beaten.
Yeah.
And I'm not the type to emotionally lose it in a loud way or something. I might keep it internal. But now, I must say, the work with her in the last few years, I brush all those away now. I just move on to the next hand, and it is what it is, And pretty simply, you get a run out that doesn't fit with you. It's not your fault. You might drive home and ask yourself, how the fuck does this happen? Can I say that?
I'll have to move the podcast from family-friendly to explicit, but it is a gambling podcast, I guess.
Yeah. So now it's, now I deal with it, and it's pretty good. I enjoy, if I get bad beaten, I get it, because inevitably, you'll do it to somebody. I do it less to people than they do it to me. And that's only a factor of the type of hands that you get it in with versus, what some people might get an all in with you.
So you've put the judgment to the side, rather than judge any person for playing a hand a certain way or whatever. It's like, it just doesn't matter. It's almost like an acceptance of, if I'm going to play poker, that's part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game that everyone's going to get unlucky at some stages, but also everyone's going to get lucky.
Yeah, and if you pay $1,000 to play an event, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. Yeah.
It's your $1,000, so knock yourself out, and that's why I don't like people poo-pooing somebody because they've done something. It's just the way it is.
It's a waste of all that energy you've worked so hard on balancing.
Yeah.
You're projecting negative energy on someone for no purpose at all. All you're going to do is make them upset. You're upset. Everyone's upset.
Yeah.
And then, you're not really playing poker anymore. It just ruins the whole game because it's just some sort of negative experience for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so that was after 14. It was probably 15, 16, 17 I started working on those, because we had some down years. Still had a few reasonable years as far as money winning. But buy-ins were obviously higher, and poker's a tough game. I mean, it's very hard to win in poker,
I think even when you look at trying to win, people think of, if I pay my $1,000, I could win 100,000, and it's like, yeah, that's true, but really the only real way to know what you're actually winning is to know what your ROI is.
That's right.
So and the best player in the world probably has an ROI in most games at that level is maybe 120, maybe 130%, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty high, really.
Yeah.
So for every $1,000 you put in there, you're only expected to make $200 or $300 each time you play. But it just comes in waves, right? But people think that, you buy into a tournament. The reality is I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And if I don't win, I'm upset.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When Jackie and I were talking about this, about success and how do you measure it in poker? Because if you don't win, even when you come second, it's super unsatisfying.
Yeah.
So but it's so hard to win a tournament.
Oh.
So what's it like for you? How do you measure success, or how do you, know that you've done well at the end of the day, even if you don't win the tournament?
That's interesting. Your goal is to always try to win. So, but I guess our style of play, being less aggressive than maybe a younger player.
Our style, you mean? The old guys.
The old guys, yeah, our style of play. Combined with some education, you can generally run pretty deep. You're going a long way in a tournament. It's not, you don't sit down for an hour or two, and in Vegas, you're making day twos along the way. And if you watch someone like Negreanu, who's more a traditional poker player than the new age poker player, he gets a lot of cashes. Even in the World Series now, he's already got 13 or 14 cashes, and which means it's a lot of day twos, and a lot of day twos means less tournaments. So the investment's less. Yeah, I mean, I obviously a cash is a success, and that's what you're trying for in the first place, and then a win from that. But yeah, you know.
But I mean, we all know that you could get unlucky and play your best poker and not even cash, right? So,
but that's
a successful day for you?
Yeah. Well, the beauty of poker is there's another one tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like. I mean, the other thing is that it's not like a golf tournament, because in a golf tournament you've got no hope, but in a poker tournament you've got hope against the pros, right? In a golf tournament, if Tiger was playing and DeChambeau was playing and all of that was playing, and you tried to tee it up, it's like bye Blackbird, you're gone. You know, after about half a dozen holes. But in a poker tournament, you're not. You know, you can be playing Michael Adamo and you can still win.
So you've sort of used the luck factor as almost like a beneficiary to, you know, like it's like, even if I'm playing someone who's really good, in any one moment, I could win. I could still beat them, right? So it gives you that confidence, doesn't it? Because, like over time, if you play with Adamo, he's going to crush your soul.
Yeah.
But in any one game, you know, you could get a better distribution of cards or something than him.
Exactly. You can get, if you got him heads up, sure, can crush your soul, but for half an hour you could end up getting the cards that kill him. And that's with poker. But if you got heads up with Tiger Woods, you have no chance. You know, so it's just totally a game that's available to all people. And that's what
I love about poker too.
Yeah.
Even just it's almost like non-discriminatory in all ways, isn't it?
Because as long as you've got money in your pocket, it's non-discriminatory.
Discrimination comes before they get to the poker table. Then once you get to the table, then it's anyone's game. You know, no matter where you're at. But obviously, people have advantages, but doesn't mean that if you're fully disadvantaged like other games where there's less variance in terms of the luck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you've now at a point where we're about 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic, you know, you had a couple of other results then. I mean, you had a bit of a dry run, you were saying.
Yeah.
And then you picked up.
And 2019 was my second biggest year. So 2013 was my biggest year in terms of cashes. And then 2019 came a bit, not out of the blue, you just got to be patient. And then we had a series of final tables, and I ended up winning my second ring at the Aussie Millions. And a ring.
Brags. I love it. Well, this is the real reason.
Well, I won two rings that year.
Yeah. Oh, in the same year?
Well, I won the Aussie Million ring, but I also won a ring at the World Series in Sydney.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice. So that's why I brought you to the club. The two Aussie Millions ring, one WSOP ring club.
Yeah, you've got the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opening event, Aussie Millions, bounty event Aussie Millions, and 5K WSOP.
5K.
So what were yours? Yours was 6 max?
6 max, turbo.
Yeah, turbo.
In
Sydney?
No, Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
And seniors, Sydney.
Senior Sydney.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but before they had rings, I did win the opening event of the summer series in Sydney. But they didn't have it. Wasn't a World WSOP.
So you're entitled to that fourth ring. just letting everyone in the poker world know.
There could have been another ring. Yeah.
All right. So I want to ask you something. I mean, you've got, I think it's near 1.4 million on hand and mob. You've clearly established yourself, you know, whether it be since we started working together, which I like to take a little bit of credit for, or not, but you've really stood apart from a lot of the other people, to me, in your, you know, let's call it through the old guys or whatever. Like, I've been impressed, and I'm not just saying it because I have a biased interest in you.
Sure.
But I really feel like you've really stood out from the rest. Like, what do you think it is that is? Because you're clearly interested in the education side of things.
Yeah.
That's been something that's ingrained in you from the start, or pre-poker probably.
Yeah, I think.
What do you think it is?
I think, you know, from when we started, I relied on you for educational side on poker for probably 5 years. And that was through that period and then poker changed again.
Yeah.
With the solvers and all the rest of the what's that thing called with the
like Flopzilla.
Flopzilla, there you go, that thing there. So I'm thinking, this game's getting too hard.
Yeah.
you got so, I went to the next stage and I got Flopzilla and I started watching videos, to try and understand the solvers, but passed on that. And that obviously is where the younger guys, and they're not so young anymore, they're probably in their 30s now, they do a lot of study of solvers. So I continued the learning, albeit without you at that point. Life got busy and I wanted to continue the learning, so I just continued. I subscribed to Solve for Why, which I found very interesting and really enjoyed the learning curve that they gave you, because they gave you a completely different perspective to the stuff you were teaching me.
Yeah, I mean, I like to recommend that to people. Like I don't say that I've got all the answers. I think poker is such a complex game.
Such
and like
a
you said
complex
from the
game.
start of this podcast, when we started, you said to me, I want to know it all, not so I can implement it because it may not work for me.
How I can combat it.
That's right. I want to know what's in their mind so I can combat it.
Yeah.
And you're right, everyone's image is different and all the information out there is different. So, and it's pretty cheap to sign up to these sites. And I'm not surprised to hear that that's what you had done, because you're one of the most tech savvy people I know. And you found your way. You showed up here on an electric bicycle today. I'm gonna put up a photo of you after this, because that's so cool.
On.
Yeah.
So I think there was Solve for Why, which got too expensive. They jumped the price from $10 a month to $45 a month in one go. So I let that one go, and you can get a lot of YouTube videos, and there's another guy called Split Suit Sweeney.
Is that Andrew Nean?
I'm not sure.
A different one?
No, James Sweeney is his name.
Yeah.
And he is really in-depth analysis. So watching some of his videos, it's in-depth, but the way he explains it is really, really easy to understand. And I liked watching his videos. So we kept the learning going, and I've enjoyed that. And I'm never going to be, a solver person.
Well, I don't think you actually need to.
You don't need to.
No, because the games that you and I are playing in Australia, for example, or anyone really listening in Australia, it's not at that high stakes, super high roller bowl level where everyone's on the same page, right? So actually exploitative style will trump GTO stuff when it comes to the Australian poker scene anyway.
Yeah.
So I actually think that it could be worse for your game if you're super knowledgeable on the GTO and you try and implement that in Australia when you get people who are all over the place.
Exactly.
Because we're quite a gambling culture when it comes to poker, the way we approach poker.
But watching the super high roller stuff, there's no reason, if I had the money, why I couldn't hold my own in those without solver knowledge. Because when you watch them, as much as they know about the solver situation, they're playing their hands, the way you might play.
I've seen some weird ones by Adamo recently.
Yeah, Damo.
I see what you're saying. A lot of it seems quite mechanical now. It's like, I'm in this position, I do this, and the bet sizes are very, very, very mechanical and robotic.
They might know, a good percentage more of situations than you would, but what's the guy that owns Poker Go?
Not dealer.
Kerry Katz?
Oh, Kerry, yeah.
Okay, so he's won $20 million in earnings. He's won that mainly because he plays the high rollers, because he can afford to play the high rollers.
His 500k.
Yeah, well, 25k. He does well in the 25ks, but his game isn't a solver game. So you can be successful if you've got the money to play those and play your game, because I think the solver stuff, GTO versus exploitative, is more when you're tackling bigger fields of players that don't know or don't play any of those. But when you get down to 50 players or 100 players playing a 25K, I don't even think it applies. People are playing their hands, they're playing their position, they know
this is where it comes to mindset though.
Right.
Because implementing it at high pressure situations, it's two different things. It's like if Ronaldo came and taught you everything about playing soccer, put you in Wembley Stadium with 60,000 people watching you.
No hope.
That's what I mean, right? Being able to implement, like poker is a performance game. People don't really take that very seriously, but right. It is.
Yeah.
And because your heart rate, when they do those, you can see them on YouTube. They get heart rate monitors up to like Negreanu and that. Yeah. Their heart rate gets to like 120, 130. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
So you are having these responses that are chemical that will alter your state of mind.
Yeah.
And so then your ability, it's like when you have an argument with your partner, like you say stupid stuff when you're angry because your emotions are overriding your ability to think rationally.
Yeah.
Or strategically. So in poker, it's the same. If you don't manage yourself through those unfavorable situations, you are not going to be able to apply your strategy because you are simply using a different. Like this is just psychological and biochemical.
Yeah.
So I think that I agree with you to a certain extent, but when you're in the game, because I've played some 25Ks before, and when you're up there against all these guys, it can be very intimidating. Yeah, you might second guess yourself because even though you might study GTO so much, being in that point, you might think, oh shit, I should be doing this, but I don't want to bubble, or I don't want to be the idiot who gets out bluffing.
Yeah, but the reason you do that and the reason they don't is because 25K is so high for you or for me or for someone like that compared to I play 25K now, it's another 25K tomorrow, another 25K the next day, which is what Kerry Katz plays during the World Series. They have a 25K every day at the ARIA, and he plays one every day. So it's like playing a 500 event every day. So yes, you play
something here, right? Because it's to do with the money,
It's to do with the money.
Yeah,
it's 100% to do with the money. There are games that if you play $100 online game, it'll be different than if you play a 2K online game. I would rather play a 2K or a 5K game every day than play a $100 game. I can't play a 25K, but if I played a 25K against them, I'd shit myself over decisions because it's not in my sphere of competitiveness. I'm outside my comfort zone. They're sitting right in the middle of theirs, and the 100K and the 200K, and the Damo he doesn't have a problem if he dumps 200 or 250. He obviously had to go through the steps to get to that point. And when he played the events when he was younger, I'm sure, he might have been backed, or if his bankroll got damaged, he would feel it, But as you move through and you get to points, where you're not damaged, or you don't feel like, it hurts you, then you'll play differently. You're protecting 25K. You're not going for a win. That's what you're doing when you're playing that level of poker. Or you're protecting 5K. You're not going for a win if it means a lot to you.
So do you think then over your career, because we joke about the separation between the old guys and the young guys, do you think there's a part of the reason why the younger guys are more aggressive is because they don't have families to feed, or they don't have a partner, they're not married, they don't have mortgages, and the older guys are more from they had to work a lot harder when they were younger and really value money, and whether you're, if you're in business, you're very strategic about assets and money management. Do you think that that's part of why the older guys are a little bit more conservative and last longer, but are less likely to play, get those top three? You know what I mean?
I think, poker is a game, and the younger guys are playing a game. They're not playing for cash. They're playing a game. Costs money to get in, but they're playing a game. The older guys are playing a game, but it costs me X to get in, so I align that 500 with how much I spend to put on the table for food this week. Whereas, the younger, more aggressive ones, they're not worried about that. They're worried about winning the game.
Do you think that's better or worse though?
I think it's probably better. I think it pays off more if you play it more aggressively. And that's why you have all these sites now that do the, when they help you buy in.
You can sell stakes.
You sell stakes and everything. So it helps them diffuse their investment.
Yeah.
Sure, they got a smaller slice of the pie, but all of a sudden, instead of putting 10K of my money into that event, I only put 1K in. I'm going to play it differently. Especially where you don't even know who the other 9K belongs to.
I think that's better because sometimes if you know the person, then that also could bring an additional weight on your shoulders, especially if that person's a vocal person.
Yeah.
Because they might watch you and go, why did you do that? Why did you do this? That was silly. That was stupid. Like there's an additional pressure that can come with that. So I think the anonymity is probably beneficial. But I'm interested to know more about that for you because you're saying that it's beneficial to go the younger style with the more relentless aggression and that's going to win you more tournaments. But for you, your mindset is, well, no, this is real money I'm playing with and I have an association with what it means for my family. So how have you managed to balance the two and still get a lot of really impressive results over the years?
That's a good question.
Gotcha.
It's interesting because, these are things that a younger, more nonchalant person doesn't go through. When I started playing poker, my wife was totally against it because she believed that I was gambling, and gambling leads to losing money.
Well, you were because you didn't know what you're doing. There's a lot of
this is when I started playing
pre-education, right?
More tournaments side of things, and then I started getting a few results. But so you not only have to deal with the money side of things, you now have to deal with somebody who can't stand what you're doing because they're frightened that you might be losing your money, their money, your family money. So they become, negative towards. So you've got to deal with the negativity of a person that's in your life, as well as trying to increase your, your ability in the game at the same time. It makes it really difficult for a period. I crossed over that, because of the results I had to a point where, now she's like one of my biggest fans.
Money talks, baby. No, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? So you get some results and they get less scared that you're going to lose the house. So a younger person doesn't have that worry. So you're fighting with both of those. And then, so you have the results and that starts to give you confidence. But I'm always managing the level of buy-ins. I don't like rebuys. I don't mind having a rebuy tournament, but I don't like to rebuy because it's, reduces your ROI and it's like, so inevitably I'm trying to, do well from one bullet. A lot of the younger guys, they might throw 4 and 5 bullets at something. I just don't see the benefit of that. It's been explained to me that it's, it's right to do that in a 5K event. You can buy in 5 times and it's still, profitable. I can't see it.
It's difficult to understand,
Yeah. I like tournaments that deliver high return on your investment. So if you're in a 5K tournament and first prize is 250K and you've fired 5 bullets and it's cost you 25K, you're getting 10 to 1. I don't believe you're 10 to 1 when you start that event. So getting 10 to 1, sure you've won. Getting 10 to 1 at the end of the day doesn't make sense to me. If you put 5K in and win 250K and you've won 50 to 1, that's different. if you put 1K in and it's 120K first prize, okay, you're getting 120 to 1, so I don't believe, so as much as you can fire 5 bullets into something, I just don't get where when the return is going to be down at 10 to 1, and in some cases could be 6 to 1. I don't find the value of that.
Yeah, and so do you think that coming back to the idea of having your partner really support you through it when you started turning over a bit of results and that?
Yeah, that was a big change.
Yeah, it would have been
big change.
But how did you manage it before you got to that?
It was really difficult.
Yeah,
it was really difficult. I had to, you had fights at home. You were trying to justify what you were doing, when somebody is negative towards something, that's not going to happen real quickly. And then it started to happen, and then you've met Guylaine, and she's pretty easygoing, but I understood that she had worries about it, but I had to convince her that I wasn't playing a gambling game. It's like poker players trying to convince the American government that poker is a game of skill, not a game of chance, so that they can get it back online. But so it's the same thing.
It's a tough argument. Yeah,
it's a tough
argument.
argument.
I think that each individual person has a different approach. When people ask me, what do you think the skill to gamble ratio is, and I said it depends who it is. Depends who's playing, because if I'm playing, it's definitely more skill because of all my experience and the years I've spent training for myself and education and all that. But if the random person just buys into a $1,000 tournament, they are purely gambling.
Yeah.
It'd be like me buying a cafe with no experience in hospitality or business. That is a pure gamble.
Yeah.
But if I studied it and if I had people who were helping me manage it and everything, now it's an investment. It's not a gamble anymore. It still could go bad, of course. But
of course.
That's the way I like to put it.
When you attach the word casino to the...
there's a stigma now, yeah.
You're going to walk into a casino, it doesn't matter what game you're playing. You're gambling. So it might be poker, and you believe that there's a skill level 70-30. That doesn't count. You're walking into a casino. You're gambling. Doesn't matter what game you choose. So you have to...
You mean to the outside eye, like
to your partner.
Yeah.
Right. If I have to go to the casino to play this game that I want to play, you're gambling, and you could lose all our money. So you have to battle that. And when you think about it, okay, I've had some reasonable success over the years, but when I look back and I add up the buy-ins, to a successful year, it's a shitload of money. And if you don't win, you've lost a shitload of money.
Well,
so 95% of people out there that play in those tournaments don't win. And they don't win, and they don't win, and they don't win. It's a shitload of money that they've let go of, so it's coming from somewhere. So that's why it was so important to me to learn more about the game, because I wasn't going to go down that. I would have stopped playing poker if I hadn't had any results. I 100% would have stopped playing if, we'd have gone another year or two before. In 2012, I did okay, and then 13 smashed it. So if that hadn't have happened, which could have, I wouldn't be playing poker today. 100%.
Because I guess at that point it's well, how many more years are you going to go down to, and lie to yourself that it's skill, and when really for you personally, maybe you don't have the skill and you never will. So maybe this is particularly a gamble for you. Because really, if you continue going for, how many years is it of losing until you think, you know what, maybe I'm actually just not that good at this game. Maybe I should take up a different sport or hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not for everyone. One thing I do like to ask people when I work with them is, why do you play poker?
Well, I think people play because it's fun. It's social, and it's fun. So, especially if you have a group of friends. So if you have a group of friends, and for me, going to Vegas is 50% playing the events, but 50% because I go with my best mates. You know, I have 3 or 4 guys that we go every year, and we love it. You know, so we treat it as a holiday / events. Everyone is managing how many buy-ins they have and what tournaments they play. So they're not just throwing money at every tournament that there is. But, you know, we're trying to enjoy the experience. We're not professional poker players, but, you know, over 3 or 4 of us, we've had some good results. So that keeps you going.
Shout out to the Coogee guys.
Well, it's the Demelians, the Spanos, and the Nick Wrights.
No, he's gone.
He's gone to, he's playing APT.
Yeah. So let me bring you back to the here and now. So, you know, we talked up until about 2019, and then obviously the pandemic hit in early 2020, and we're here now. You know, what are you doing with yourself now? Are you playing much? What's your goal? What's your aim?
Well, I'm waiting for live poker to get back. I'm not a... I mean, obviously we don't have internet poker in Australia, so Australians who want to play legally can't.
Yeah, there's a lot of dodgy games.
There's a lot of dodgy games.
We don't have to tiptoe around it. We know there's lots of dodgy games going on.
Yeah,
and,
so,
you know, you can play them if you want, but
exactly. So I'm very interested in coming back to true live poker at reasonable buy-ins. So, you know, $500 events, $1,000 events, those sort of events where, you know, the people that are playing are respectful of the money that they're spending. So, and you know, say 70% of them are, which is enough to make a tournament a really good tournament.
Yeah. It's a good sweet spot, isn't it?
Yeah.
You still get a bit of the exciting play that comes along and splashes around a bit, but then it's also mostly people are treating it like a strategy game.
Strategy game.
Yeah.
I mean, and that number has grown over the years, you know, so, you know, compared to maybe 2013 where it was 50-50, education has been part of everybody's learning curve in poker. So that 50-50, you know, where 50% might have splashed and 50 were a bit more strategic is probably grown to 70 now. So when you sit down to a tournament, there's still the ones that want to have fun and splash around, but the number of people that are playing GTO or, you know, at least, you know, a strategic game is much higher. And they're much more fun games for me than the splash around games. You know,
it's a little bit more not predictable, but I think you know what I mean when I say that though, because it's like you at least can anticipate certain moves of combat in the game.
Yeah.
You know, if they 3-bet, then it could mean this or that, or if they limp, or if they, you know, like you can match things up a little bit. Whereas the unpredictable player who's just raising 10x pre-flop, it's like, well, what do we do with that?
Exactly.
Where do I go from
But
here?
you know today where the strategic 3-bet comes from, and you know if you're raised with a marginal hand and the strategic 3-bet comes in, well, you just don't play it. You know, you might have a better hand, but you're in the wrong spot to play it, and will lose 70% of the time. So, you know, you got to take out, and that's what I've taken. I take out the, you know, aggression towards the person because they're bullying you out of the game.
Love them, right? Like
you love them, you know, and they've re-raised you, and you think, you know, I'm going to tackle you, you know.
Yeah.
But inevitably that money goes over there, even though you really wanted to get him. So you called, but you miss the flop and he bets, and you fold. You know, so
it's like, it sounds like a leak that you were able to avoid by leaving your ego aside.
Exactly.
And making the disciplined decision.
You make the discipline because it not only does it make the disciplined decision, it leaves you with more chips to do something later. But if you make the call of the 3-bet and you miss the flop 75% of the time, and he c-bets and you fold, then you've lost a few more chips.
Yeah, it adds up, doesn't it?
It adds up. So you're much better off having chips to fight with than having none.
So do you think that part of your plan coming on my podcast was to tell everyone that you're going to fold to 3 bets, but really then you're going to combat it because you've got to change your strategy now if you go and say this? Well, the thing is, I found that no matter what you say in these types of situations where people can hear you, or if you say it to someone in private or whatever, in a game, things play out differently. And it's very different.
You know? I'll tell them I will fold to 3 bets, but I will play differently once I know a table. So if I know you're going to 3-bet, I will do something different.
That's what I think you're very good at. Yeah. That's what I, if someone asked me the question I asked you before, like what separates you from the other guys, is that your ability to adapt to your table, the players, because you can't approach any one poker game with any one premeditated strategy.
No.
Yes, you have general, fundamental, and strategic rules you abide by.
Yeah.
But when you get to the table, that's when you've got to adapt.
You've got to adapt.
Yeah, and I think you're very good at that.
And I'm not saying I won't call 3-bets. I will call 3-bets, but it depends on the person who's doing it, what they've done before, how they've played for the first couple of hours, as to whether I'm going to tackle them or not. But if you don't have a hand that can tackle, then you're just wasting your time. But what's going to go from here in is I think it's looking forward to 2022. We have plans now that we can travel. Obviously, we're not going to go to Vegas this year, but we're definitely going next year. And we're probably, I don't know what events they'll happen in Australia, but we are planning to go to Europe to play.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, all
so plenty to come out. Now, I feel like we can't go backwards with all these lockdowns. So now I feel like as things are opening up, the potential's there, and so it sounds like you're getting ready. You're getting geared up for some big trips and some, a lot of fun, but a lot of, like you've been doing still a little bit of research.
Still been doing studies. Still been doing research. I like where my mind is at the moment. I like how I read people. I like how I read plays. I'm enjoying it. I like what, I might do the wrong thing, but I still like what I'm reading. I now have to apply strategies that I can actually do something with in those situations. I'm keen to do that in a live. I can't do it in internet style thing. I can't do it. We're planning. We really want to go to Monte Carlo next year. We've been to Monte Carlo a couple of times.
Start saving.
Yeah. But we're hoping that they have their yearly event there next year, because that's a lot of fun. And I had a couple of cashes there in the main event, so it's been good.
Nice. Well, look, I think that's a perfect place to leave it. We've got a nice snapshot of your last decade or so in poker and how you started out and how you've overcome your challenges and had some serious success as well. And look, I've been absolutely impressed and proud to say that I was part of the journey for you. But it was all you.
No, it wasn't.
And I think your approach to just come to coaching in the first place, you did half the work just by saying, "Hey, I need some help."
Yeah. No, I mean, I want to thank you for that. That leg up, especially in 2012-13, and that start to learning, because the way that you take you through the learning and describe things allowed my brain to understand poker in a different way. And then, whether I watched a video or listened to a Sweeney or a Solve for White, I could understand it more. And they became fun to watch those things and learn through that. And, there's a lot of good players out there, and, I'm a long way off the levels of some of those, but, I can hold my own and hopefully, in the next few years, maybe we can have a few more cashes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're still enjoying the process.
Yeah.
That's the main key, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a game,
Yeah.
and life has more serious things going on. But as long as you're enjoying it and making the most of it, which it sounds like you are, that's a big tick on the, and as long as the missus is happy.
As long as the missus is happy. I mean, I'm consumed at the moment we opened a cocktail bar in Newtown, and it's going.
What's it
really
called?
well. It's called Uncanny.
Okay.
And it's
down the south end of King Street. Right?
It's just down from the station, but it's doing really well at the moment. It's only been open for 2 weeks. We took it over in April of this year, and then we've been closed for 6 months. Modified it, changed it, gave it a different vibe, and my son's running it, and it's a cool place. I gotta say, it's a cool place.
Yeah, if you guys want to check it out, go to Instagram, and it's called Uncanny. So that's, what is it?
UNCANNY. Check it out. It's a very cool venue and has really great food and a cocktail menu that's awesome. So,
and be sure to let us know that you're going there first, and that way we get the special treatment, right?
100%.
Yeah, I expect 100%. Like some sort of red carpet rolled out for me when I go.
I'll give you the prime table.
Ooh, right at the front, yeah.
That's it.
Well, thanks so much, Michel, for being here.
Thanks,
it's been awesome having you on, and hopefully we can see poker come back and booming, and see you get some more rings on your fingers.
I'd like that.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Brendan.